There are a lot of things you can say about Arkham Batman, but one thing that could never be said is that his character is grounded. I mean, this is a man who fights a giant clay monster in the chamber of a mysterious liquid that brings people back to life, which belongs to a 600-year-old man. And today, I've decided to make Arkham City even less grounded by using console commands to not just disable gravity, but actually invert it. By using this command in the cheat console, I was able to switch the world's gravity from its default value of 0 to 99, inverting the gravity of the entire world. This isn't a 100% inversion though, as there are quite a few weird quirks to how this works. I'll cover most of those as they come up, but for now all you really need to know is that generally as long as something doesn't leave the ground, it won't start floating upwards. As always, check out this video by Mr. Just Arkham Games if you want to know how to install and use the cheat console for yourself. And lastly, I want to give a special thank you to all of the wonderful people who helped come up with ideas for the story of this video. I didn't know what to write until seeing some of these amazing suggestions, so thank you all so much. Now, join me in answering the question, can you beat Batman Arkham City with inverted gravity? Tired of nobody questioning why gravity had suddenly disappeared, Bruce thought it best to crash a protest of Arkham City to speak out on the issue. But when Tiger decided to arrest and knock him out, he woke up in a dimly lit room. Standing before him was none other than Hugo Strange, who explained that the disappearance of gravity was his doing. Strange had built a time machine and traveled back in time to kill Isaac Newton before gravity could be invented, all in the hopes that the criminals of Gotham would fly into the sky, leaving the city peacefully. His plan didn't exactly go as intended though, so he just resorted to his original idea of Protocol 10, but this time without gravity. To start the run, we had to make it into Arkham City and grab the batsuit. Getting into the city was easy enough. These thugs presented zero issues, and even before getting to them, we had already completed Deadshot's side mission by sending him into outer space. But after being knocked out by Penguin and breaking free of my handcuffs, some fairly big problems started. First of all, combat didn't exactly work how you might expect. Rather than thugs just floating up and becoming impossible to take down, they would actually warp back down to the ground after they were done ragdolling. At least, sometimes they would. No matter what I did, it always seemed like one of them would start floating up into the sky while still conscious, making the encounter impossible. I tried for a while to knock all of them out before eventually realizing that the much easier option would be to use this garbage pile to float up here, skipping the entire encounter. After a bit of careful platforming, I eventually made it here, and discovered that getting onto the roof of Ace Chemicals was impossible. For those who don't know, Ace Chemicals has a couple of death planes around it during this section of the game, likely to prevent the player from being able to fall into the streets and explore the game as Bruce Wayne. One of these death planes prevents this jump from being possible without dying, and believe me, I did the research. So, with the help of YouTube chat, I started looking for other ways to the batsuit. It took me quite a while to even make it out of the alleyway and onto the streets, since Bruce was more interested in visiting his parents than stopping Protocol 10. About 50 minutes into the challenge, I finally made it to the streets. The easiest way was to travel up here as normal, then leap from the fire escape to grab onto this ledge. From here, a simple flip off the building was enough to get down to street level, since doing a flip off a ledge gives you enough momentum to continue down to ground level. This trick would be crucial to making Catwoman sections possible in the rest of the challenge, but we'll get into that later. From here, I had a new plan, to find a spot from ground level where I could jump onto the front of the building. But unfortunately, I figured out through investigating the death barriers that this likely isn't possible. The angle needed to grab any ledge on Ace Chemicals just doesn't seem achievable without hitting it. So I decided to switch the command off and get to the batsuit like normal. The run may have failed before even becoming Batman, but I still had some ideas for how to succeed that I'll get into later. So I donned the batsuit, visited my parents while in the cutscene, and then spent about 40 seconds dive bombing my way back to the courthouse, only to find out that it hadn't loaded in yet. While waiting for it to load in, I took down the thugs outside and grabbed a Riddler trophy for XP, then headed inside to stop Two-Face. For some reason, I didn't realize that this thug would just teleport back to the ledge after knocking him off, so after eventually doing a ground takedown on him, I cleared the rest of the room with ease, only getting hit a couple thousand times. None of those hits meant anything compared to the damage Two-Face did to me though. But with Two-Face taken care of, and no, he unfortunately does not float upwards when hanging, it was time to head to the church to meet up with Harley. I mean, surely we wouldn't run into any problems here. For whatever reason, having gravity inverted completely messed with this cutscene. Upon entering the church, Harley and all of her men were floating up in the ceiling, with Harley being the only one with enough decency to come back down to the ground. I'm really not sure why this happened, considering all of the hostages are still on the ground, but no amount of reloading the save and trying different things worked. The run had now failed for the second time, and it's tough to say I wasn't feeling like this would just be loss after loss. But I was determined to finish the game no matter what. Plus, on the bright side, turning off the command here had a pretty interesting effect the first time. And upon reloading the game and turning the command on after entering the room, I somehow managed to completely lose one of the 4 thugs. But with the church out of the way, it was time for the steel mill. The waste exchange chimney was a bit of a chore, since I was stupid and got Batman stuck on the ceiling. In order to get him back down to the ground, I had 2 choices: reload the checkpoint, or slide along the ceiling until I hit something that bumps me back down to the ground. Far too many times this run did I choose to try and get back down myself before finally throwing in the towel and reloading the checkpoint, losing me a ton of time. A simple flip was enough to get me past this obstacle, but there was still one platforming challenge waiting for me in this area, and its solution was quite unique. With that jump out of the way, I entered the loading bay by somehow reaching the ground using this roll. Making my way to the combat encounter here, I noticed that for some reason my custom difficulty mod was still installed. If you want to know more about that, make sure to check out this video. Anyways, I beat Joker's men here to a pulp, only getting my health bar depleted a couple dozen times. In the next room, I tried for once to play it safe and take the intended route. This only caused problems though, as I learned that Zero Gravity Batman doesn't really like conveyor belts. My second attempt, I quickly showcased why I tried to do the safe route the first time. And on my third attempt, I dumped my upgrade points into ballistic armor, allowing me to finally get through the easiest Predator section in the game. The smelting chamber was easy enough. Silent takedowns and some explosive gel were enough to clear the room out, but even with them down, I still had to contend with my worst enemy, my memory of what this challenge is. After getting myself stuck to the ceiling, I had to reload the checkpoint, clear the room all over again, grab the wreck, and then head back to the loading bay to fail the challenge once again. For some reason, I failed to realize that the crane arm with physics would probably be affected by inverted gravity, so I once again had to turn the command off to even get through this section, since the crane is far from usable when stuck through the ceiling. On the plus side, the inverted gravity did an amazing job at helping me out with Mr. Hammer. Even though I couldn't defeat him after he ascended to heaven, this didn't matter all that much, since skipping the fight was easier than ever thanks to me being able to fly. And so, with the steel mill finished, it was time to move on to the second Catwoman mission. Our first goal here was to make the journey to her apartment, and what a journey it was. It took me about 12 minutes of gameplay, not counting the technical difficulties during the stream, just to make it to her apartment. Did you think Catwoman's traversal was annoying enough already? If so, I am warning you now to never try it when one wrong move can send you hurtling into the sky, completely unable to grapple to any ledge because the game hates you. I say this a lot, but this is genuinely, without a doubt, the single most annoying thing I have ever had to go through in an Arkham challenge thus far. But with Catwoman's gadgets in hand, I made my way to Ivy's lair, took down her thugs with many issues, and was back to playing as Batman. After waking up, I was given a secret recording by Joker that appeared to be Hugo Strange talking to a mysterious man.
I've been studying you. Your work was really quite brilliant. That's why I used it.
I know you were lying, Strange. There is no way that you could have figured it out. It's some kind of trick. It must be.
Oh, I used no tricks. I simply created a time machine.
What?
I have a little side project that I'm working on. I could use your help. What do you want?
Oh, that's easy. I want exactly what you want.
And what's that?
Dead. I couldn't have put it in better myself.
Good. Now, one last thing.
If there truly was a scientist on his team, then I knew exactly the spot in Arkham City to help work on a time machine, the GCPD Forensics Labs. My first attempt to get into the GCPD was anything but successful, mainly because I once again forgot that stopping mid-glide would make me go up instead of down, leading to me getting caught and killed. Inside the GCPD didn't go much better, since for some reason I thought the speedrun strat that relies on multiple ground takedowns would work. And as if that wasn't enough, the final thug in the room decided that he was safer in the air than on the ground. And even after reloading the checkpoint, this dickhead pulled out the same exact move. I felt like I was playing against Gotham Paladin in a no damage run, because this guy would not stop evading over me. But against all odds, I managed to get him on my third attempt. He informed me that Penguin had gotten his hands on some of Strange's time machines, and was planning to go back in time to relive the glory days with Candy and Tracy.
I'm only doing this as a courtesy, Strange.
I just thought we could both benefit from a little talk, Mr. Cobblepot.
I'm not like
Of course not. After all, considering the...
women. I only take the best. Now, it's time that you do something for me.
And what is that?
Told you, Strange. No more little questions until you give me what I want.
And what is that?
Here's a dirty. It's beautiful, isn't it? They were perfect.
I'm glad. It appears that we can both help each other. I have a time machine in the room next door. You can take it with you.
What? Why would you give me of all people, time machine?
We've separated you from society, so I am more than willing to study the results if you all just decide to crook each other.
I knew I could never let Penguin experience that kind of joy, so I was off to take down his time machines and put an end to his rule in Arkham City. The first two were as simple as always, and the journey to reach the third was actually more difficult than taking down the thugs guarding it, since I got myself stuck on the ceiling here and spent a ridiculous amount of time trying to get down before just reloading. I did die during my first try at this Predator section, mainly because the thugs in the room somehow always knew exactly which gargoyle I was on at any given moment. This room wasn't exactly difficult, but it definitely was a lot less straightforward than usual, since my go-to strat is usually to knock people off train cars and railings, a luxury I don't have this run. The Gladiator Pit was the next major part of the run, and it honestly wasn't that bad. The entire fight is the exact same as in a normal playthrough, except this time thugs float upwards after being knocked out instead of falling to the ground. This challenge doesn't really affect combat at all, so the only thing that could stop me from winning was my own terrible gameplay. With the Gladiator Pit over with, it was time to enter the torture chamber. Things here started out easy enough, but quickly went off the rails when it came time to cut down this raft. For whatever reason, the raft refused to float on the surface of the water, and instead always sunk down. I even tried standing on it first and then cutting it down, but that didn't work either, and after a bit more trying, I eventually gave up and turned the command off again. The fight against Sickle started out amazing, with me getting stuck on the ceiling and having to reload the checkpoint immediately. The second time around, I managed to glide before getting stuck, allowing me to get back down to the ground and save freeze with ease.
Bars?
The Armory Predator encounter was easy enough too, even with this Penguin thug returning to pull out his classic strat of hiding in the ceiling. So, all that was left in the museum was Grundy, and there's really not much to say about this fight. It's not any different than normal, so 3 beatdowns and a ripped out heart later, I dived back down to Penguin and completed the museum once and for all. Tracking the ninja was the next order of business, and I'd like to say this went well, but unfortunately this chase happened to be the millionth time I would fail this challenge. For some reason, messing up this final jump led to the ninja who was 5 feet away from me getting away.
She got away.
And even when I didn't mess up this jump, the ninja still always floated away before the fight could even begin. I tried over and over, but in the end this sequence just ended up being impossible. Don't worry though, because I was about to fail the challenge 3 more times. The next point of failure was this mechanical guardian, who for whatever reason was the only one to not stay on the ground. No matter what I tried, I couldn't scan it until turning the command off, at which point it dropped back down and went into its usual pose. Unsurprisingly, the next point of failure was Raish's boss fight. The first phase went well enough, but phase 2 was where problems started. Whenever Raish would get all of his ninjas to attack at once, countering their attacks would cause them to fly up into the sky. Eventually, I found out that if I was quick enough, I could use a special combo takedown on one of them before they started floating away, but this plan wasn't foolproof. Not only would this stop being a viable option once the number of ninjas left went below 6, there was also a chance that Raish and the ninja clones would randomly stop attacking and disappear forever. I tried everything. Remote controlled batarangs, special combo takedowns. I even tried bashing Raish's head off the ceiling a bunch, but none of it was anywhere near enough to take him down. So I turned the command off for the 7th time this run, beat Raish down, and turned the command back on, only to immediately lose again. As he usually does, Batman decided that during this cutscene he was going to fly up to the ceiling. So when it came time to throw the reverse batarang at Raish, I couldn't, because Batman was in a state of falling. At this point, it was hard not to feel defeated. 8 losses, and I was only about halfway through the game. But even with the soul-crushing experience that was dealing with the League of Assassins, I was determined to see whether or not the rest of the game was possible. So I rescued Quincy Sharp with only a few people dying in the process, and made my way to the GCPD. The challenge doesn't really affect Predator encounters that much, meaning Frieza's boss fight was exactly the same as usual. So I gave my boy Victor 5 big booms and was on my way to the steel mill. Now, since I had learned back at the museum that rafts didn't work the way they're supposed to, I had a plan to try and avoid some headaches here in the cooling tunnels. Rather than going through the area as normal, I headed over to this area and got myself out of bounds. From here, I navigated to the door you usually enter the cooling tunnels from, but on the opposite side than is usually used. This made it so that when I spawned in the cooling tunnels, I was out of bounds. From here, I glided around until finally finding some water to drop into, causing Batman to climb back in bounds with a decent amount skipped. Unfortunately, I didn't completely skip the need to use the freeze blast as a raft, but lucky for me, it still worked. Not exactly sure how this works, but it does. This even allowed me to skip another small section too. The smelting chamber wasn't difficult in the slightest, unless we count the time I died near instantly on my first attempt, and the second time I died because I was stupid, and the time I almost died on my 3rd try. As always, I killed the sniper in the assembly line and then spent 3 to 5 business days trying to stop Batman from getting stuck to the ceiling. Eventually, I had to resort to barely entering the little office here, using the wreck to open the shutter door, and then going back around to enter the office normally. It was little moments like this that really highlighted that this challenge was more about traversal than stealth or combat. All that was left now was the ghost train, and to be honest, I was very worried about this section. Considering all the thugs who enter the arena do so by jumping off trains, I was very scared they'd all just float up to the ceiling, making the fight impossible. But much to my surprise, they all jumped out of the trains and managed to make it to the ground. Well, not all of them. For some reason, Mr. Hammer started randomly floating up halfway through the fight. And after taking everyone down and looking upwards for him, I found out that the Titan Thug just never made it to the ground. Even after reloading, the Titan Thug just refused to come down. While I sat there trying to figure out how I was going to get the Titan Thug down, Joker hit me. Annoyed at Joker, I decided to beat him down as a joke, only to somehow end up knocking him out, finishing the fight without ever even touching the Titan Thug. I'm really not sure what happened here and why I was able to complete the fight, but I'm not complaining. And now, just to make my day worse, it was time to spend an hour trying to make literally any progress while traversing as Catwoman.
I can't do it. I can't take this shit no more, man.
Seriously, it took nearly 20 minutes just to get into the sewers. Once I actually got inside the vault, things weren't too difficult. Dropping from the ceiling still dropped me to the ground, meaning things weren't too different from normal, aside from me getting stuck in the ceiling and my enemies zipping around at supersonic speeds. Even still, these Tiger Guards were no match for me. In fact, my strategy was evolving, because in the vault fight, I realized that after disarming a thug of their weapon, they could never recover it from the ceiling. I'm not sure why it took me so long to realize this, but at least I did eventually. With control of Batman back, I woke up to find yet another secret recording from Joker, this one seemingly addressed directly to me from Strange.
I believe you would have escaped if greed had not got the better of you.
I couldn't believe it. Making shady business deals with time travelers to rewrite history was one thing, but personally calling me out for my greed in so many challenges was unacceptable. It was time to stop Strange, and nothing was going to stand in my way. The processing center fight went fairly well, with me abusing the fact that disarming a thug would permanently remove the weapon from the arena. Through a lot of luck, I managed to traverse the collapsed tunnels and make it to the Wonder Tower foundations, which only took me a few minutes to clear. The climb up Wonder Tower was exceptionally easy, considering I was able to just float all the way up to the top. I did try to use this to perform the glitch where you skip hacking this panel, leading to the Tiger Guards not being able to see Batman for some reason. The glitch didn't work though, as the game pretended they were all here even though they weren't, meaning I couldn't hack this panel to take down Strange. So I went about things the intended way. I hacked this panel, took out all the Tiger Guards, opened the door to Strange's office, and took him down. With Strange down, I took the opportunity to take a look at his time machine to see all the things he had changed, and it turns out he hadn't changed a thing. His time machine was a fake. But how? The changing of history, the random petty trolls to stop me from finishing the game, the teleporting Tiger Guards, all of this could only be the work of one man, the Reverse Flash. It was him all along, Barry. I knew if I didn't act fast, then it was only a matter of time before I ended up like my boy Hugo, dying on the floor. So, if Reverse Flash was going to use a scientist to fuck me over, I figured I'd do the same to him.
He's going to die. He needs meth. Now!
Do as you wish, Detective. He's already dead to me.
You got one part of that wrong. This is not meth.
No!
Get out of there!
With Reverse Flash and Strange taken care of, all that was left was to take down Joker and Clayface and put an end to this zero-gravity madness. The first two phases of Clayface's fight were exactly the same as normal, but the third phase was where things got a little tricky. Things began simple enough, but after taking out a certain amount of his little clay minions, they just stopped spawning. Time and time again, attempt after attempt, Clayface would just stop spawning them at a certain point. It was clear that if I wanted to beat Clayface, my strategy needed to change, and after 20 minutes of attempts, I made a discovery. If you stand here and throw freeze blasts, they'll actually hit Clayface, dealing a tiny bit of damage against his actual health bar. Now, this plan wasn't foolproof. I did still have to get lucky enough that he'd spawn enough minions to drive down his brown health bar, since it wouldn't do me any good to get him down to minimum health if I couldn't deal the final blow, and I had to actually survive that long, which is a lot easier said than done when you're forced to keep a few of the clay minions alive. After over half an hour, I found out that the safest way to do this was to get Batman airborne, allowing me to glide on top of here and throw a freeze blast at Clayface without any danger of being hit. Then, once his health was as low as I could get it, I glided back down, tossed one last freeze blast at Clayface, and proved that no, you could not beat Batman Arkham City if gravity is inverted. If you're not abusing glitches, that is. As you may know from my video on beating Arkham City when everybody is armored, there is a very glitchy alternative way to beat the game. I'm talking about the Batman's Revenge speedrun category, a run that completes the main story of Arkham City by starting the game in Harley Quinn's Revenge. If you want a more in-depth breakdown of how this works, I highly suggest you check out this video, as I explain it a lot more there. Long story short, this speedrun starts in Harley Quinn's Revenge, uses glitches to get Batman back into the main story, and then uses even more glitches to finish the game. All we had to do was complete the introductory sequence as Robin, and then obtain the security codes for Harley's security system. The reason I need to do this is because the game requires you to have the Master Control program to finish it, which you usually get from a helicopter during Protocol 10. Lucky for me though, the security codes used in Harley Quinn's Revenge are actually the same thing as the Master Control program, meaning that as long as I can obtain them, I'm good to go. Usually it requires a lot of glitches to get back into the main game, but in our case I simply had to float up high enough and then fly over to Crank Toys, going in and out to quickly load me back into the main game. From here I did the same thing to get over the walls surrounding Wonder Tower, found my way to this door, and entered the collapsed streets. And from here on out everything was normal. Scale up Wonder Tower, take down Strange, once again use my zoning strategy against Clayface, and prove that yes, you can beat Batman Arkham City if gravity is inverted. It's funny though, I can't help but feel I glossed over an immense amount of torture that I had to endure. Jokes aside, as annoying as it was, I did also prove that the entirety of Catwoman's DLC is possible without gravity. I also did Harley Quinn's Revenge properly on stream, so stay on the lookout for a video on that in the future. This video was a lot of fun to make and was actually recorded during the first few streams I ever did. So if you want to see challenges like this performed live, consider checking my streams out. If you made it this far in the video, thank you. I want to give a massive thank you to everyone who helped me come up with ideas for the story of this video. I was completely lost before seeing your guys' suggestions. Be sure to like, comment, subscribe, or even consider becoming a channel member. Special thanks to TJ Tracker, my first ever channel member. That's all I've got for now. See ya.
Tell me, what was it like growing up alone? Feeling yourself?